Hello, friends. Have you ever wondered why a woman who has loved her husband for 40, maybe 50 years, starts to seem distant in their golden years? That quietness at the dinner table, the one that feels heavier than it used to? We've all seen it, and perhaps some of us have even felt it growing in our own homes. Most men, and many women too, mistake this silence for comfort. They think, everything is fine, we're settled. But as a family doctor who has sat with hundreds of couples over the years, I have seen this silence for what it truly is: a symptom of a relationship that is slowly, quietly running out of oxygen. It is the single biggest predictor I've seen for a lonely, bitter end to a lifelong partnership. But here's something that might surprise you. After decades of listening to these stories in the privacy of my office, I can tell you that this deep resentment rarely comes from a lack of love. In fact, it often grows from a love that has simply been starved. I'm not talking about theories from a book. I'm talking about real people. I will never forget a couple. Let's call them Frank and Eleanor. Frank brought his wife to see me because he was worried about her memory. But when I spoke to Eleanor alone, she said something that just broke my heart. She looked at me and said, "Doctor, my memory is fine. The problem is, I feel like I've become invisible to him. Just part of the furniture now." Their story is why I had to make this video. Today, we're going to explore the 7 hidden reasons behind this painful drift. And more importantly, for each reason, I will give you one simple, practical thing you can do, starting tonight, to begin rebuilding that bridge. And please, be sure to stay for reason number 7. It's the one that festers in the dark for decades, and understanding it could lead to the most important conversation you have in your marriage. What we're talking about today isn't from some dry psychology textbook. It's from real life, from listening to hundreds of couples just like you. This is about the heart, not just the head. Before we dive in, I truly want to know how many of us have felt a version of this. If what I've just shared feels familiar in any way, if you've ever felt that silence, please take a moment to comment a simple yes below. It shows me you're here, and it powerfully shows others in our community that they are not alone in this feeling. Okay, let's get started. Alright, let's explore the first reason. Reason number 1. Emotional neglect. This is, by far, the most common and the most silent reason I see in my practice. The problem starts with a simple misunderstanding. Many men, good men, believe that their physical presence in the home is enough. They've worked hard their whole lives, they've provided, and now, in retirement, they are simply there. In the same room, in the same house. And in their minds, that equals connection. But for their wives, it often feels like the loneliest place on earth. You see, a human heart, and especially a woman's heart in a long-term relationship, needs something called positive attention to feel loved. It's like a plant that needs sunlight. Without it, the love that is still there begins to wither on the vine. This becomes a critical issue as we age. When you were both busy raising children or building careers, that constant activity filled the silence. But now, in the quiet of retirement, the lack of a real, deep conversation becomes a roar. The emptiness is impossible to ignore. This is what leads to that profound, aching symptom. A feeling of being utterly alone, even when your husband is sitting just a few feet away. I think of my patient, Margaret, a lovely 72-year-old woman. She once told me her husband was the funniest man she'd ever known. But for the last 10 years, their evenings had fallen into a rigid routine. He would sit in his recliner and watch television, while she sat at the kitchen table, reading a book, just waiting. She confessed to me, with tears in her eyes, "Doctor, I love him, but I don't think he's truly looked at me or asked me a real question in years. I feel like a ghost in my own home." Her frustration over those years had slowly, painfully, hardened into a deep resentment. But here is the good news. Reconnecting is not about grand gestures. It's about small, intentional acts. So here is your simple, practical solution. I call it the 5-minute question. Tonight, I want you to find a moment to turn off the television, look your wife in the eyes, and ask her this: "How was your day, really?" And then, this is the most important part. Just listen. Don't offer solutions. Don't try to fix anything. Just give her the gift of your undivided attention. you will be astonished at how that small act of watering the plant can begin to bring it back to life. Now, let's move on to the second reason, which often goes hand in hand with the first. Reason number 2. The unequal burden of responsibility. A common mistake many couples make is believing that once retirement begins, the work is over for everyone. A husband retires from his job, and he rightfully feels he has earned his rest. But his wife, she often never truly retires from hers. The work of running a home, of managing the social calendar, of remembering birthdays, of checking on the grandkids, that work continues. And it is often completely invisible to her partner. Psychologists have a term for this: emotional labor. It's not just the physical chores. It's the mental load of being the one who has to remember everything. For decades, this imbalance might have been manageable, but it becomes glaringly obvious in our later years. When a husband is relaxing, enjoying his new freedom, while his wife is still doing the same tasks she's been doing for 50 years, a deep sense of unfairness can take root. The quiet thought begins to grow: when is it my turn to rest? This is when a woman starts to feel less like a cherished partner and more like a live-in housekeeper. I had a patient, a wonderful 74-year-old woman named Linda, who put it to me so plainly. She said, "My husband, God love him, thinks he's helping when he takes out the trash once a week. But he has no idea that I've already planned the meals, made the grocery list, paid the bills, and scheduled his doctor's appointment. He sees the tip of the iceberg, but I'm the one holding the rest of it up." That feeling, that her decades of effort were not only unappreciated but entirely unseen, had turned into a quiet, simmering anger. If this insight is surprising to you, if you've never thought about this invisible work, please comment the word "wow" below. It helps me know that we are uncovering something important together. And the solution here is beautifully simple. It's the specific thank you. Sometime tomorrow, I want you to notice one specific task she always does: making the coffee, sorting the mail, tidying up the living room. And then, I want you to go to her and say, "Honey, I know you make the coffee for us every single morning. I just wanted to tell you that I see it, and I am so grateful for it." Acknowledging the specific act shows that you are finally seeing the invisible. And in that moment of being seen, decades of resentment can begin to melt away. Alright, this brings us to a very painful and powerful point. Reason number 3. A lack of appreciation for a lifetime of sacrifices. We often forget that the past is never truly in the past. It lives with us, in our memories. And for many women of a certain generation, their past is filled with sacrifices they made for the good of the family. Perhaps they gave up a career they were passionate about. Or they put aside a personal dream to support their husbands. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do. The loving thing to do. But when those sacrifices are never acknowledged, over the long arc of a lifetime, they can turn into a source of deep bitterness. The human spirit has a fundamental need to be recognized. We need to know that our contributions mattered. As we get older, we naturally begin to look back on our lives, to take stock of our story. This is the core reason this becomes so toxic with age. If a woman looks back and feels that her sacrifices have been erased from the family's history, that only her husband's achievements are celebrated, it creates a profound emotional wound. The feeling isn't just one of being unappreciated. It's a feeling of having had a part of her life stolen. It feels as if her best years were spent in service to a dream that was never truly hers, and for which she received no credit. I think of a patient, Susan, who is now 80 years old. In her youth, she was a gifted artist who dreamed of teaching. She put all of that aside to raise 4 children and create a stable, loving home so her husband could build his business. She was so careful with their budget that she managed to save an extra $40,000 over the years, a fact he never knew. When he sold his business and retired successfully, he often told stories of his hard work and accomplishments. But he never once said, "And I couldn't have done any of it without Susan." For her, that silence was deafening. It felt like her entire contribution was meaningless. The path to healing this wound requires courage. It's an action I call the legacy question. Find a quiet time to sit with your wife and ask her this, with genuine humility. "Honey, looking back on our life together, was there anything you had to give up for us, for our family?" And then, you must be prepared to listen to the answer without being defensive. You are not just asking a question. You are giving her a chance to reclaim her story. You are giving her a chance to finally be seen. Now, let's discuss a problem that creeps into a marriage so slowly that most couples don't notice it until it's a giant wall between them. Reason number 4. The breakdown of communication. When a couple first gets together, they talk about everything. Their hopes, their fears, their silly little observations about the world. That conversation is the lifeblood of their intimacy. But over the decades, something strange happens. The conversations become smaller. They shrink down until they are purely about logistics. What to have for dinner, who will pay the bills, when the plumber is coming. The deep, meaningful dialogue that connects two souls. It just disappears. This creates a dangerous vacuum. As we age, our need for deep companionship often increases. The kids are gone, our careers are over, and our partner is meant to be our primary source of emotional connection. But if the channels of communication have closed down, a woman can feel completely isolated. Her husband might think the quiet is a sign of comfort and peace. But for her, the silence is a sign of abandonment. It's a daily, painful reminder that the man she loves is no longer interested in who she is as a person. In her thoughts, her feelings, her inner world. The symptom is feeling like you are living with a stranger. A kind stranger, perhaps, but a stranger nonetheless. This was the exact experience of Patricia, a 75-year-old patient. She told me the saddest thing was their long car rides. They used to be filled with laughter and stories. Now they were just silent. She said, "I try to start a conversation. I'll mention something I saw or something I'm thinking about. And he'll just say, huh, or nothing at all. I've just stopped trying. It hurts too much." She was grieving the loss of her best friend, who was still sitting right next to her. If you recognize this silence and are ready to start a real conversation again, please comment the word talk below. The solution is a simple rule I call the 10-minute no logistics rule. Just for 10 minutes every day, you are not allowed to talk about bills, chores, health problems, or the kids. You can talk about a memory, a dream you had, something you read, something that made you laugh. The goal is to get back into the habit of sharing your inner worlds. It will feel awkward at first, but it is the single most effective way to tear down that wall of silence, brick by brick. This next reason is incredibly sensitive, but we have to talk about it because it is so important. Reason number 5. The decline in physical intimacy. When I say physical intimacy, many people immediately think of the bedroom. And while that is a part of it, it is so much more than that. I'm talking about the small, everyday acts of affection that keep a couple bonded. Holding hands while walking, a kiss goodnight, a hug for no reason, a simple touch on the arm as you pass by. Over the years, due to health issues, stress, or just plain complacency, these small gestures can fade away. For many women, the loss of this casual affection feels like a profound rejection. It's not about neediness. It's about a fundamental human need to feel desired and valued by one's partner. When a husband stops reaching for his wife's hand, her brain doesn't interpret that as, "Oh, he's just tired." Her heart interprets it as, "He doesn't find me attractive anymore. He doesn't desire me." Whether that is true or not doesn't matter. The feeling it creates is real, and it is devastating. This is especially true as a woman ages and deals with the changes in her own body. At a time when she may feel most vulnerable, the withdrawal of her husband's affection can feel like a final confirmation of her deepest fears. The symptom is a feeling of being untouchable, unwanted. I remember a patient, Janet, who was 68. She came to me about feeling down, and we talked for a while. Finally, she confided in me what was really bothering her. She said, "He used to always have his hand on my knee when we were driving. He hasn't done that in years." It sounds so silly, doesn't it? But it feels like everything. She wasn't being silly. She was mourning the loss of a physical language that had once told her she was loved and cherished. The emptiness of their physical life had made her feel like a roommate, and that frustration had curdled into a deep bitterness toward the man sleeping next to her every night. The solution is something I call the 3-second rule. It's about relearning to be intentional with affection. The next time you hug your wife, or kiss her hello or goodbye, I want you to hold it for just 3 seconds longer than you normally would. 1, 2, 3. That small, extra moment of intention communicates warmth, presence, and desire. It sends a powerful message directly to her heart that says, I'm here, I see you, and I cherish you. It costs nothing, but it can change everything. Alright, our sixth reason explains why so many couples seem to be living in two separate worlds, even under the same roof. Reason number 6. Growing differences in lifestyle and interests. When you're building a life together, you are united by huge, shared goals. Raising the children, paying off the mortgage, supporting each other's careers. These common projects keep you aligned, moving in the same direction. But what happens when the kids are grown, the house is paid for, and you're both retired? Suddenly, those shared goals are gone, and the individual differences that were once minor can become giant chasms. This is a major source of resentment that blossoms in our later years. Very often, one partner, frequently the wife, sees retirement as a new chapter, a time to travel, to learn a new skill, to volunteer, to socialize. But the other partner may see it simply as a time to rest and do a nothing. He might be perfectly content to stay home, watch his favorite shows, and stick to his routine. When a wife's invitations to join her, to take a walk, attend a community event, or try a new restaurant, are constantly met with, "No, I'd rather not," it sends a painful message. The message is, your need for growth and connection doesn't matter to me. I am not invested in the life you still want to live. The resulting symptom is feeling like you are dragging an anchor, that your partner is holding you back from living your remaining years to the fullest. This was the story of Barbara, a vibrant 77-year-old. She loved her gardening club and taking classes at the local senior center. Her husband, however, rarely left his recliner. For years, she tried to get him involved. She told me, "I don't expect him to love everything I love, but it would mean the world to me if he would just try. Just once." His refusal feels like he's not just rejecting the activity, he's rejecting me. Her disappointment eventually turned into a quiet contempt. She felt she was living a full life in spite of him, not with him. If you believe in the importance of creating new memories as we age, please comment the word adventure below. The solution here is what I call the say yes experiment. Husbands, this is for you. For 1 week, your job is to say yes to one small invitation from your wife that you would normally decline. It doesn't have to be a trip to Paris. It could be taking a walk around the block after dinner. It could be going with her to the farmer's market on Saturday. By stepping out of your comfort zone, even in a small way, you are stepping back into your partnership. You are showing her that her joy is important to you, and that you are still on the same team, ready for the next adventure together. And finally, we've arrived at the last reason. This is the one that often does the most damage, because it's made of memories that never fade. Reason number 7. Unresolved conflicts from the past. There is a common belief that time heals all wounds. In my medical and personal experience, this is simply not true. Time does not heal wounds. It only buries them. And in a long marriage, there can be many, many buried wounds. Arguments about money, betrayals of trust, hurtful words spoken in anger, dreams that were dismissed. If these moments were never truly repaired with a sincere apology and genuine forgiveness, they don't disappear. They fester. This is the critical reason why this becomes so explosive in our later years. As life slows down, we have more time for reflection. The mind wanders back, and those old hurts, which may have been buried for 30 or 40 years, can resurface with the same intensity as if they happened yesterday. A wife might suddenly find herself overcome with anger about something her husband said in 1985. He has likely forgotten it completely. But for her, it has become a symbol of all the times she felt dismissed, unheard, or devalued. The resentment she feels in her 70s is often not about the present day at all. It's about a past that was never properly healed. The symptom is a free-floating anger that seems to come out of nowhere, triggered by the smallest things. I will never forget Evelyn, an 80-year-old patient, who could recall with perfect clarity the day her husband laughed at her dream of going back to school when she was in her 40s. He'd said something casual like, "What on earth for?" and the conversation was over. She buried the hurt and moved on. But now, in the quiet of her old age, that one single comment had grown in her memory until it represented every time her ambitions were treated as silly. For him, it was a forgotten sentence. For her, it was a heavy stone she had carried in her heart for half her life. Healing these old wounds is the most challenging, but also the most rewarding work a couple can do. It requires one simple, powerful action: the humble apology. This is not about relitigating the past. It is about acknowledging a past hurt. It means saying, "I know I hurt you all those years ago when I dismissed your dream of going back to school. I was wrong, and I am truly sorry." It is never too late to say you're sorry. Acknowledging a past pain does not erase it, but it validates it. It lifts the heavy stone, and it allows true healing to finally begin. As we come to a close, I want you to think back to the couple I mentioned at the beginning, Frank and Eleanor. Remember, Frank came to me because he was worried his wife was becoming withdrawn, and he feared for her memory. The root of their problem was that first silent issue we discussed: emotional neglect. Frank started with just one small change. He began practicing the 5-minute question. A few months later, Eleanor came to see me by herself. And what she told me is something I'll never forget. With a real smile on her face, she said, "Doctor, I feel like I'm being seen again." One small, simple act. That's all it took to begin mending a connection that had been fraying for years. And that is the true lesson I hope you take away from our time together today. The resentment that builds over decades is not an insurmountable wall. It's not a final verdict on a marriage. It's more like a bridge that has fallen into disrepair from years of quiet neglect. A bridge that can feel scary or impossible to cross. But it is a bridge that can be rebuilt. It can be made strong again, plank by plank, with the simple, sturdy materials of kindness, of attention, and of a genuine willingness to truly listen. It is never too late to begin that repair. Now, as we wrap up, we've explored 7 deep truths that can truly transform our relationships in these golden years. But as we all know, knowledge is only powerful when we put it into action. So now, I have one important question for you. What is the one small commitment you are making to yourself or to your partner after watching this video? It could be as simple as, "I will ask the 5-minute question tonight." Or, "I will give a specific thank you tomorrow morning." It could even be, "I will find the courage to make that humble apology." Please, share your personal commitment in the comments below. It's a powerful way to hold yourself accountable, and more importantly, your story will inspire others in our community to take that first brave step. And if you found real value and encouragement in our time together, you can show your support by giving this video a simple like. It truly helps. To ensure you continue on this journey with us and never miss another conversation full of life-changing wisdom, please hit that subscribe button. It's more than just subscribing. It's joining a warm community of people dedicated to living their best lives together. Finally, think of one person who needs to hear this message today. Maybe a friend, a sibling, or even your own spouse. Please, share it with them. You might just open the door to a conversation that has been needed for a very long time. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stay well, stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video.